think we're good to go.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm going to keep letting people in. My name is Jessie Barclay, and I'm a career development specialist with the Career Service Center. Can everyone hear me? If you can you put a thumbs up? Sweet. All right. So I am joined by Yvonne Gonzalez, and I like to think of her as our resident federal and veteran expert, to be honest. So we're going to go through the nitty gritty of Usajobs today. And so I will have the chat open. I will be manning the chat, and we are happy to answer questions as we go through. I am definitely going to let Yvonne kind of take over from here on out, share the screen. After this, we will also be sending you guys a recording of what we go over today, as well as the resources. So you can kind of sit back and just enjoy, take notes if you would like, and I will let Yvonne introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Gonzalez. I recently started at Career Services. However, I actually came from working with the TAP program, Transition Assistance Program for active duty military members. With that, we did a lot of federal resumes, a lot of federal navigation, and those types of jobs. So most of my knowledge comes from working in that area. And today we are going to show you the Usajobs and some additional resources that added on to our part 1 presentation, which was resumes. Okay, I am going to go ahead and I am going to share my screen. So everybody, if you guys could, it would be very good if you guys had Usajobs open. It will kind of help us because there will be a time where we pause and we're going to start looking up your information in some of the jobs you're interested in. So for everybody online, we will take a point where we're going to ask for volunteers to kind of unmute yourself and talk us through what your career goals are, and we're going to come up with the best way to search it, and then also then use our resources that we're going to show you. So we really hope to get a few people through and show you how we would assist you, so that way even if you're not called on, you get an idea of how you can use this site and the resources we showed you. So firstly, on Usajobs, I bring you here because before we start going, I want you guys to know there are different pathways. So these are the pathways. If you think that you are eligible for one of the pathways, go ahead and click it. You guys can read more. So some of them require extra documentation if you are claiming to be hired through that said pathway, okay? I will just give a quick show of one that might be most relevant to everybody here since we're all in college. So this one is recent and students. So recent grads and students. So they have internship programs, which you guys can learn more about. It might be very interesting for some of you guys that have a little bit more time before you graduate. And then the Recent Grad Program and the Presidential Management Fellowships. So if you think something applies to you, always just research it out and just read more. But it will tell you how you can find it and what you're going to need. So this document section is something that you really want to look for in each section. It tells you specifically what additional documents you need to prove that you fit that pathway. Okay, so transcripts are the one thing you guys will need. At one point, we are going to show you how to get your unofficial transcripts as well through STAR. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started with our PowerPoint. So just give me one moment. Okay. So we are doing the federal job search is part 2. So we are going to be using Usajobs. So anybody new, if anybody's come on since we started, this is something I want you to pull up and you're going to use while we're doing the presentation. The hiring pathways are just what I showed you. It's on the homepage. You scroll down and you can click to see what the requirements are to claim that pathway. Okay, so when you guys sign in, this is the home screen it brings you to. It brings you to this home spot where it says welcome in your name. We used mine for example purposes. So with this, you have the home, the profile, documents, preferences, and then sign out. So on your home screen, you'll see all the applications. If you've applied to anything, they will be all right there. There is save jobs. So if you save a job, which we're going to show you how to do, and then save searches, which is also something we're going to show you how to do. I'm going to note that setting up your profile can be good if you plan on using USA Jobs a lot. However, just make sure that you go ahead and put everything in there. Make sure it's similar to what you have on your resume. You don't want anything to be too different from your resume to your profile. Documents. This one is going to be where your resume and then the additional documents that we talked about, like transcripts, will go. We will show you this section too, so don't worry about that. And then lastly, preferences. This is the one section that if I suggest anybody not do, it's this one. I actually will show you why. For example purposes, I left my preferences in here, and I'll show you 100% why I say take out your preferences and maybe not fill this section in. It's not as needed as some people would think, okay? So there's a, oops, sorry guys. There is a search section right here. If you click on that, it will let you type in a field, okay? So I'm going to show you what it looks like when you search. So we typed in geologist for our search purposes, and it brought up all of these different things, okay? So you could see that there's 8 jobs when we viewed this. We didn't put in location or any other filters. But I'm going to show you how you would use the other filters. Okay, so the hiring pathways, like I said, you'll know which ones apply to you. So you'll go ahead and on the side, which is where this box came from, you are going to select which ones you want. The most popular are going to be open to the public, veterans, and then the recent graduates. There is another little one that will say students for people looking for internships typically. That is also in yellow, and it would be right under the recent grads box. Okay, so those are some of the filters, and we did select those ones when we were going through, so you'll see them in a minute. Next, you're going to click series. At the very bottom, it's going to show you all the different series. So this is part 1. If you click series open, you're going to see all of these different series numbers. So when you search, it will bring up anything, any description that has that word in it. So it might not be a geologist position, but it might say like works with geologist in the duties. So in order to weed out those ones, you can look through and see which ones you want to include or not include. So I refined that as well, and I clicked a few to show you how you could do it. Okay, so now that we have that, we went through the filters and then we went through the series and clicked those. This is what your search will look like with all of these extra little tabs at the top. Okay. If you like this search and it has found all the jobs you're looking for and you're like, it brings only the relevant ones up that I want, go ahead and click save this search. It's at the top of the search bar. Okay, that is how you save searches, and you'll see when we log back into USA Jobs exactly how you can do that. Okay, so I clicked the first one. So I clicked the geologist for Lakewood, Colorado, when we were doing the demonstration for the PowerPoint. And so the next most important thing that you guys are going to want to see is where to save it and where to apply. Okay, so those are the 2 most important things that you guys are going to need to know how to kind of utilize. But with that being said, I'm going to bring us back to USA Jobs right now. But does anybody have any questions before we get into a little demonstration where we're going to ask somebody to give us an area they are interested in looking at? Any questions?
Nothing in the chat.
Okay. Okay, so can you see that?
Yes.
Perfect. So Usajobs times itself out very quickly. So you're going to have to stay signed in quite a bit. It was one of the reasons we told you guys to build your resume in a Word document and then copy it into the USA Builder if that's what you're interested in doing, is because it times itself out quite a bit. Okay. So with this, I'm going to do a search for somebody. So who here would like to unmute themselves and then talk me through what we're searching for?
Or you could also put it in the chat if you really don't want to say, but we're here, we're really here to, okay, thank you, Stephen. You were helpful last time too. You can unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. So I'm looking for jobs related to chemistry. So anything that's just like a research chemist, or something along those lines. It doesn't have to be anything specific at first.
Okay, I am gonna go chemist. Okay, so before I said, if you have preferences, I have saved preferences from way back in the day. I am going to take them off. This is why. We're going to show you exactly why preferences sometimes aren't good when you're searching, especially if you're just trying to get a general feel. Some of the preferences that you have are going to limit how many jobs you see. So now we have 15 now that we've taken some of these off. Now we're at 23. So here we go. And then term. Okay, so we now have 26 jobs when we originally saw 3. This is why I don't like people to use preferences. I keep them on here just for example purposes. But with that being said, you can save a good search with some filters on there for the thing you really, really want. Mm-hmm. That is easier to use your saved searches than it is to use preferences. Okay, so I'm going to go through and we're going to mark open to the public. And then, Stephen, do you qualify for any of the other pathways, if you don't mind saying?
I looked through them and I don't think I do.
Okay, so we're going to keep it with open to the public. And then series wise, again, we're going to kind of look through. So you are looking more for chemistry. You're not looking for any of the engineering or the biological science, right?
No, not at first, no.
Okay, so we're going to refine to this. And now we have 18 jobs. One thing I'm going to point out for some of us is that there are pay grades. So you can click this and you can refine into pay grades. I typically don't put these in searches because a typical college graduate is looking for anywhere from a GS5 to typically a 9 is the entry level positions. If you only have GS9 on your search, you're going to really limit some of the jobs that might be from this to this, because it will give you like right here, it says GS7 to 11. It could exclude some of them if you only have like a 9 or something in there. So I typically don't search by grade for that purpose because it can really limit what you see. But I just wanted to let you know that 5 to 9 is typical for a college student to get into those positions. Those are definitely a good spot for you to hit at. Once you have a few years in the field and a few years experience, even post-graduation, if you are an alumni on this one, you may qualify for more than a GS9.
Yeah, and Stephen just asked, yes, PhD and master's level, sometimes depending on the position, will put you at a higher grade. So
Yep.
I have seen PhD students get GS12, depending on how advanced they are and how needed their skills are. So absolutely.
And so with this, I'm actually going to click this one for you for example purposes, okay? So Stephen, we like this search. I'm going to save it for you and for examples. So you can see we have to name it. So I'm going to put chemist and then daily notifications. It's not notifying you if anything new has come up. It's just going to notify you what's currently up that fits your search criteria. So even if nothing's been put up in the past week, it will still give you daily notifications of the same jobs if you click daily. I typically say if you are actively searching to click weekly. That is the preferred one because typically once a week you'll get a good amount of new ones added, and most jobs on USA Jobs stay up for a minimum of 7 to 14 days is usually the shortest you'll find the announcement will be up for. So weekly, if you're looking at least once a week, you should hit anything new that comes on. With that, I'm going to click never. This isn't for me.
Because we're in your profile.
Yeah. So this is what I'm going to do for right now. I'm going to click this first one for Stephen. Okay. So we're going to explain how to evaluate this job. So that way you know what to put in your resume. Okay. Because this is what's going to be one of the most important things is knowing how to read these and what specifically you need to look for. Okay. So first of all, you need to take in when is it opening and when is it closing. Okay. This is going to be important, A, to make sure you get it in on time, and it'll also tell you something about this. So I wanted to use this one because it is open for a year long.
Mm-hmm.
What this means is that they are hiring for a full year. So if something comes available in the next year, they're not going to put an individual announcement out for a chemist. They're going to be hiring from the pool that's already applied. Okay. And so every year they probably do this, they open and close one. So if you are interested in this type of role, you would need to apply every year. So that way your application can get seen if there's a job available, because they're not going to put an announcement out. They're just going to take it from the people who've already applied to it. So that's why this one I picked is so you could see that. If it has a short range or even a month, that means they're actively hiring for a specific role and they have a time frame and when they need to hire. So that's the difference. If it's like a year, 6 months, typically they're just building an applicant pool so they can hire quickly if something comes available.
Yeah, and it's really important for you guys to understand that, because you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket for these types of positions, because they may not have an opening in that year. They may. So keep applying, but don't bank on it, if that makes sense.
Yep. Exactly it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You guys are going to want to thoroughly read the duties. Okay. As in any job description, that is a place you guys really need to read through. Make sure that you can give good descriptions in your resume of what they have in their duty section. And then I'm going to say this, use their verbiage. Okay. If they say includes the investigations, analysis, and interpretation of composition, physical, and chemical properties, you need to make sure at some point all of these words are in there. Whether they're in the same sentence is up to you, but use their words. So at some point, copy and paste this. If you're like, oh, hey, this fits in this sentence, you can mix and match, but the more words you use that they specifically have is going to help you get past the applicant tracking system, which we've already talked about is so picky. So using their words in the duty sections. There is also all the requirements and qualifications, the education. This one is very slim in that section, but you also want to read through these ones thoroughly. Okay, sorry, I'm reading through this one because I've not seen it before.
Another thing to be aware of as we're going through these, every single one may have very specific elements. They're all going to have education, they're all going to have duties and KSAs, which are knowledge, skills, and abilities. But that doesn't mean they're outlined the same way. So that's why it's so important to pay close attention to every single section.
Yep. So the other section we really highly want you to look at is the how will you be evaluated? And also take verbiage from this section, the education section. All the ones we kind of point out to you are ones where you want to take the verbiage from. Again, this one is very skimpy. This is not normal.
But it is normal for these rolling positions.
Yes.
Where they just are looking for an applicant pool.
Okay, so this one says required documents. If you're using education, which most people are going to use it for this one, they need to follow these guidelines. So this is where you would click this and you need to add these documents specifically to your document section and have them uploaded in your profile. Okay, and then it has a how to apply. If you have questions, some, not all, will have contact information. So if you have like a specific question, this one at least has an email. Not all of them do.
No, that's awesome.
I'll show you a good one. I know one of the examples that we're going to show you after this will have it. Email them if you have questions, and then always you can read the next steps. Okay, but that's typically where we stop looking and evaluating this. I'm going to go ahead. Since we saved this search, I'm going to show you as if we went back to our home. So we clicked us. So now we have the save search right here. So we can find it. Okay. You click view results and you can click renew. So they do time out after a while. Just so you know, it will tell you right here. It says it will archive it at this time. You can look, I have some archive from way back in the day, see one of the classes I taught. So that is one of the areas you'll see is archive and active. So you'll never lose a search. So if you're like, hey, I got this job, so I stopped looking, but I want to go back to looking for this position, your search will be there just in the archive section. So don't worry about that. So save jobs. We're going to show you 2 job positions that have key things that you need to look for. So we picked 2. So we're going to look at the full job announcement for this one. Okay. So this one is also for 6 months. Just so you know, they may or may not be actively hiring. It does depend. They sometimes open these ones up because they want people who are graduating in the spring to apply for them. So sometimes they have a 6-month window so they can catch everybody who's applying because this is a recent grad one. See, this one is only open to recent grads. So they also are going to try to catch, because it's open, when did it open? November. They're going to try to catch some December grads as well. So they're catching both things. So this one, I wouldn't say they're not actively hiring. I think they opened it at a time so they could hire both fall and spring grads. Okay. With that, it's a pay scale 7 to 9. Like I said, that's our typical entry-level job for grads.
And they do give the salary ranges based off of the G scale above, which is so cool. If you keep going up, it's awesome. Salary range for GS7. It's really helpful going into that so that you do have that understanding. And I'm going to say this right now, just because this is probably a good point since we are talking salary. Mm-hmm. When you are first getting into the GS system,
If you think that you deserve more than what they're offering you, which is going to be, so if you qualify for the 7, they're going to offer you this lower number. 100%, that's what they're going to offer you. Okay. If you feel you deserve more money, they have a step system in the GS. So there's different steps in each step. And I think there's 10 steps per each level.
That's my
for each
standard.
pay scale. For a 7, there's 10 steps. And then once you reach the 10th step for the 7, you can then be a 9, basically. So what I'm going to say about this, if you try to negotiate, I warn you, just going to warn you, you have to provide documentation and verification to explain exactly why you fit the role for the next tier up or whatever tier that pay level you're requesting is at. So they'll tell you the different requirements between them. You can provide all that documentation. HR can go through and then say, hey, we think this is a valid thing. And then the department can say, hey, I'm only willing to pay in this. This is all we have in the budget. So no. I will say that it is already a slow process for the federal system. Typically, to get hired on is anywhere between 6 months to 12 months. By the time you get this offer, it's either probably already been in the 5-month to 10-month range. If you negotiate, you will then slow your process down even more. And they also have the right to then not offer you the job and just revoke it instead of having you renegotiate, because you don't have the job yet. And this is also something, since I've worked in this realm for quite a few years, and I've even had HR people to talk to from USACE, which is the Corps of Engineers. I've talked to the Department of the Army HR. I've had contacts with a whole lot of them. There's actually quite a bit. The VA is another big one that I've talked to. They will sometimes, if they're not willing to wait on hiring because it adds more time to it, the department will revoke the offer because they want to get somebody hired quickly at that point. And if you negotiate, it could add 2 to 3 months on before you could start. So I'm just saying.
So if you're going to negotiate, make sure that you have the documentation that proves that you are willing to go up another one of those steps within the G scale that you are intending to be a part of. And I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and I just warn you to be careful with negotiations. So if you're really just wanting to get in, I would just think about that. Okay. Okay. So, oops. Now we're going to go down. And we're going to go to the duties. Okay. Same thing here. Please use all the verbiage in here at some point. Okay. Doesn't mean you have to use the whole sentence. You can use part of a sentence here, maybe a word or two there, somehow just incorporate it. Okay.
A good example from duties, if you're going to look at this, contract administration or construction contracts. If you've had experience in a course, if you've had experience on the job or in an internship where you did contract administration or construction contracts, you're going to put that in there as many times as you have had that experience. So I hope those are what we mean by verbiage.
Yes, and the verbiage doesn't have to just go in jobs or internships. It can go in your school projects and courses. Okay, so requirements, read through them. They're good to know. You don't have to use the verbiage in there though. Okay, so this one, it says it's a continuous announcement and it tells you when the first cutoff is, and then when the vacancies will go back. So it kind of explains that. So I'm going to keep scrolling. This is the education section.
Yeah, this is the good part.
Yep. This is where we said we would come back to and show you when you put a course section in your resume, or if you're listing courses underneath of your education section in our template. So specifically, what you're going to need. So first off, it's accredited. They want you to come from an accredited school right there. Okay, that's where you can find that they will not accept somebody who hasn't gone to a ABET school. I don't know if that's how you actually say it. I'm just giving it a go. With that, that's why we said under education, if your program's accredited, you must put it. Don't make them guess for it. You need to write it out and write it out how they put it there. So they put the whole word and then in parentheses that, copy and paste that into your resume right there if you're engineering, okay?
And we can promise you at WVU, all of our programs are accredited, but every discipline has different accreditation bodies. So look on your department's website, see what board accreditates their credentials, and make sure you're putting the right one. Just because it's on here does not mean that it's one that's accredited through a WVU program. I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
I do know for a fact that WVU engineering is ABET. Like that is absolutely what the accreditation board that we use.
Okay. So now it lists classes. If you have any of these classes, statistics, dynamics, strength materials, fluid mechanics, hydraulics, thermodynamics, electrical fields and currents. If you've taken any of these classes, those words better be on your resume, okay?
Under the course section,
Yep.
in your project section.
Yep,
On a traditional resume, we would just say, no, they know if you have a civil or an electrical engineering degree, you have these. That is not the instance here. You have to put it.
yep. So this is another example of why you also need to put your education section into your resume and the different areas you can kind of put it in. So I'm going to keep going because same thing, you read through all of these sections thoroughly. I'm not going to read through all of them with you, but if it's a job you're interested in, you better read it top to bottom and then figure out how you can incorporate the verbs over, okay? So, and then it gave you the same thing for an architect, since an architect could get this degree as well. So I just went over the engineering part, tells you the difference in specializations to what's the difference between the 7 and the 9, all of that good stuff, okay? So this, how you will be evaluated, again, really good for you to read this because it will show specifically all the things they're considering when you're being evaluated, okay? So resume, supporting documents, and responses to questionnaires. Those are going to be some of the highlighted things they're going to look at. And then they're also going to consider veterans and military spouses. So they'll take that into consideration as well for this position. Okay, so required documents. This is where it will tell you everything you specifically need on there, okay? It says that your resume can be submitted in any format. So sometimes you will see, and I'm going to put this out there, I have not seen it in a while. I have seen some that said you had to use the Usajobs builder. It has to be in that format they give, okay? So if it gives that specification, go ahead and do the builder. But as long as it says any format, or if it doesn't specify at all, you can submit it in the templates we have or with the builder, okay? Okay, it will tell you specifically if your resume includes a photograph, it does not make you eligible. You may not be considered if you have a photograph in there, okay? None of our templates will have a photo. There's no option to put it in any of ours. There's no options in the USA Builder. So you're fine if you use those documents. There's no, unless you like felt the need to put your photo in there. That would have been on you, not on our template.
That's all on you.
Yeah. But that's also very common. They can't, because it's considered for HR purposes, a kind of a no-no. It's a big no-no in the federal world. Okay. Now it's saying a cover letter and a performance appraisal, if applicable. Typically, this is applicable if you've been an employee of the GS system before. You have to put your last performance appraisal on there. So that's if you've been in the system before. Okay. Licenses and transcripts. So if you have a PE, is that what's?
Yes.
Okay. For engineers, if you have a PE and you have a license, you need to provide proof of it or something along those lines. So make sure if you did get your PE, it's on there. Okay.
We did just have a great question.
Yes.
So Stephen wants to know if we can include other documents that are not mentioned in required documents. For example, in his case, something like a research summary or some of his research work.
Yes, I would go ahead and submit all of that in one document though. So if you are going to provide a secondary document that's more extra for them to see, like put like a name it research, because it only lets you have 10 documents in there. Name it research and then do a PDF of all of the key things you want them to see in that one. But that's a good question. If there is like some body of work you want them to also kind of have at their disposal to prove that you're qualified, put it. It doesn't hurt.
Same thing with certifications. If you have a lot of certifications within your field, I know for a lot of project engineers, it may be OSHA trainings, things like that. You can do the same thing, make sure they're all in the same PDF, so you're not taking up all of the spots with that document.
Yep. Okay. Social worker. This is going to be the last one, how we're going to show you how to evaluate, because this has the other key things we need you to see. Oh, my bad. Sorry, guys. I've done this a lot and I know better. Full job announcement. Here we go. Okay. So they are specifically hiring somebody and somebody pretty quickly. It is only open for 3 weeks.
It's pretty
Okay.
short.
And it will still take 6 months to hire you on. This is probably going to be on the short range, but they are actively trying to replace somebody in these vacant areas. Okay. Just FYI, if you see something that short, do expect a quicker turnaround. Okay. So why are we bringing this one up?
The extra form.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I know.
I know, sorry.
You're getting excited.
I'm getting so excited.
So this one has a lot more. This one is a supervisory position. It is a GS-12. I do not expect anybody, maybe besides a PhD student or a master's student.
With experience.
Well, no, not even a master's student because they have to be fully licensed. Maybe a PhD student in the social work program would be able to get this one right out of school. Okay, so look at all of this good stuff. Look at it. They have a ton. This one you need to bring over a lot more information because they give you a lot more to work with. So please go through and make sure all of that's in there. If they give you a lot to work with, use it. Okay, so this is why we wanted you to see this one though. This one also, their education has to be accredited through the Council on Social Work Education. Okay, if it is not accredited, unfortunately, they will not consider you. They very much are stringent on this. There are quote unquote ways, if you are the most perfect applicant, that if you didn't go to this kind of program, they might accept additional documentation. But typically it's a weed out. Typically you won't even get looked at because they are very strict about their social workers. I know this because I'm a counselor. We work with them all the time. This one I am very familiar with. Okay. So it also tells you that you need to be licensed or certified by a state. So you are going to need to provide proof of this. This is telling you that this is an additional document you have to provide them as proof. So the license or certification. Okay. They give you KSAs. This one shows you how you are going to use your KSAs in your resume. This is another section where you're going to take stuff out. So if you ever see these knowledge, skills, and abilities, and they have a list of them like this.
Big red flag that you need to pay attention.
Yes, because they're going to be judging you off of these very critically. Okay. So that's why this one, we really wanted to show you what it would look like if they added KSAs. And then lastly, if you didn't scroll all the way down, sorry, we're going to keep going to the required documents. Because you know how we said like there's certain how you'll be evaluated, the requirements, the education section, and the KSAs are things you're going to want to put on your resume. Well, some people don't even scroll down to the required documents because they know you need to provide a resume and these certain documents. However, because this is a supervisor position, they want, ta-da, a secondary form. It is not going to prompt you to fill this out anywhere else or attach it in your document section. If you hadn't scrolled all the way down, you would have missed this. And they have a checklist. Okay, you need to do both of these for this job. Okay, so sometimes the document section has a hidden nugget in it that proves that you fully read the whole announcement, okay? I have seen these before. So please know that it is sporadic. Sometimes you won't see them, but then randomly it will be on there, okay? So please look in the document section for other required documents, okay? And then it gives you the whole list of all the other ones you could potentially do. So before we go to apply, I'm going to go to my personal document section to kind of show you what that looks like and where you'll be putting all these documents that we kind of just told you about, okay? Does anybody have any questions before I go ahead and switch over to our document section?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. So we're going to go to documents. You can have 5 resumes on here. I have done quite a few for sample purposes. So you can make sure that your current resume, the one you want to use, is on here. And then this is where your other documents are gonna go. Okay, so you can have up to 10 documents. Every single one of you should have transcripts. If you have a bachelor's degree, if you have an associate's degree, if you have a master's degree, all 3 need to be on there. So if you've done it, you need the transcript, regardless of if it's the one that is the one that qualifies you. So PhD for Stephen, you need your bachelor's. If you have a master's, I know sometimes you don't need a master's, or the PhD needs to be on there. All 3 will be required to prove, okay? So there are some other documents you may have. If you have a DD 214, if you're a veteran, this is a section you're going to want to put it at. Choose your most recent. If you have gotten in and out, we have some career jumpers that do that, or guardsmen or reserve. Choose your most recent DD 214 for this purposes. You only need 1. You don't need to verify all if you have like 6, okay? So your most recent DD 214. Then I qualify for spouse preference. So I have the 2 out of the 3 documents you need for spouse preference, okay? If you have spouse preference, please let me know. I can provide, there's a 3rd document that you need that isn't currently in here, but I can provide that for you. I have access to it. I know that's probably like nobody in the crowd.
We do have 2 questions when you get it.
Yes.
No, we do have someone with a spouse preference.
Oh, hi friend.
They say go Navy. That's fun.
No, go Army, beat Navy. And we have somebody in the Army in our in-person section. So really go Army.
Well, we welcome everyone.
That's true.
So Stephen does have a question. Any helpful information about what to do when jobs ask you to answer a series of questions to assess your knowledge, skills, and abilities?
We are going to go over that one as soon. I'm going to bring you, actually, that is the next thing after I showed you this document. We're going to go back to the PowerPoint and I'm going to show you the application process. And then we were going to talk about that.
It's a great question,
but amazing because it is true.
It's very important. And Krista wants to know, do transcripts need to be certified? I know that one. So they will tell you if they need to. But most of the time you can actually find those on the STAR, or you can request to have one that is certified, and we're going to show you where to find those.
Okay. With that, until you graduate, don't order your official transcripts, the certified version. Don't order those until you've graduated. If you are still in college, please just use your unofficial. And then as soon as you graduate, go to the official, because there's no use in paying the university twice for documents.
Exactly.
Like, I'm all about saving the money. Okay. With that, we're going to go back to the PowerPoint. So just give me a minute to reshare with the PowerPoint. Okay. So we have hit the apply button. That's where we left off, is how you then would apply. Okay. You are going to go through this document. Let me move this for the in-person people. You will select your resume, so you'll be able to see, you just click it, and that is as easy as it gets when selecting it. Same thing for your documents. Make sure you click all of them. You can use all 10 of yours. If you have 10 documents, you can click all 10. But just make sure you click all that are relevant, or all the ones you want, because sometimes you might have an additional document that you only want for like one type of job if you're applying to like 2 or 3 different ones. So just choose your documents. Also, it will have a required document. If you notice in blue at the very like right-hand corner, it's required documents. It should tell you everything that is fully required for that job, like the bare minimum of it. Okay. So usually that's resume and things like that. Okay. So potential documents. This is a list of all the potential ones you guys could need: a DD-214, a certificate of direct hire if that applies to you. Typically, you will know what that means if it applies to you. Transcripts, certifications, the VA disability rating letter. This is what qualifies you for either the 10 or 5-point ratings, is that disability certificate. Your security clearance letter. Again, there is a specific letter if you have a security clearance. We can get you to that. You just kind of fill it out, and it gives them documentation that it is currently active, if that makes sense. And if you have one, you'll know what I'm talking about. So it will be pretty easy. Language proficiency questionnaire. If you are claiming to have some of those languages, like we said on the other document, there is a questionnaire you guys can fill out that helps provide additional documentation to prove how strong your language skills are. Okay. And then this one is for spouses. You need to have your marriage license, the most recent orders that bring you to the location you're located at, and then the PPP paperwork. Yes. I have the Army paperwork. Now that I'm thinking about it, I am not sure, because you said Navy, if the Navy requires a PPP paper. I have never tried for the Navy jobs, but I actually can find out. I have a few friends who are Navy spouses that I can ask. I'm sure they would actually know. Okay. So you are gonna review your package. You'll go through, and it will give you the chance, if you want to view everything, make sure everything's in there exactly how you want it to be seen. It lets you view and remove and add. Okay. So last chance, well, not really last chance. There's so many last chances. It's going to ask you, how did you find this place? And then, do you want to continue the application to the agency? Okay. So then you certify everything is correct, and it's going to bump you over to the other agency's site. With that, the site is where you're going to have that questionnaire for the KSAs. Okay. We get into tricky situations because there are people on these questionnaires that lie and rate themselves E, or extremely qualified, and most qualified is the best way to put it, in all sections of the KSAs, which gets your point score higher, because they'll take how much you matched the job description and the KSAs and the education section and give your resume a point. So that's how they grade you on that. Veterans get 5 or 10 points, or sometimes 0 too. There's also that option. And so that adds to their points to the resume. And then the questionnaire gets you points too. So how you answer each question will get you different amount of points. So Stephen was asking about that. I'm going to go ahead. I actually am going to exit that. I'm going to reshare back to Usajobs. I'm going to go back to my home profile and my applications. Here we go. This one I have done. I already think I went too far on this one, showing somebody else the other day. That's okay. So you want to edit my application. So I went in, I added my resume. Should have done the example resume. It's all right. We're going to save continue. Got all my documents in there, save continue. I looked it all over. That's the resume I want. You can hit view. All of the documents I want. That's cool. I acknowledge that I've reviewed my stuff, save continue. And then I found it through Usajobs. And then save continue. And then I acknowledge, to the best of my belief, all the information I submitted was good. So continue to agency site. This is where Stephen's question is going to be. Oh, we are going to see personal information, I believe. I think that's why we. Give me 1 second. I am going to stop sharing real quick. Let me get through this one section because it'll have my like actual stuff in it for a minute. Nobody needs to know that. Okay. Here we go. Sorry, guys. I just don't need you knowing my home address.
Understood.
Okay. So then you're going to go through, this is where the points start adding up for the questionnaire, okay? So veterans preference, do you claim it? I do not. I am not a veteran, okay? Were you a previous federal employee? No, I was not, okay? Now, this is really good for you guys to see. So if a document has like, an application has multiple listed sites of where you're willing to work, you need to choose all the places you're willing to go work at, okay? The more you choose, the more HR people will see your resume, the more options they will have. Because this one was one of the long running ones.
Mm-hmm.
So if a position comes available at any of those locations you selected, they'll see you. If you don't choose a location, you won't get seen at that location, regardless if one comes up or not and you applied to this. If you want to be considered for them all, go ahead and click all of them if you want.
It's a lot.
It is, but like if you are like aiming at a certain state, you can see there's like 3 in Illinois. If you wanted Illinois or if you wanted Colorado, you know, you have multiple choices if you're just wanting to go to a certain state or a geographical area. If you're like, I just want to be in the Northeast, and you click all the ones that are considered Northeast. I leave it up to you 100%. I'm not going to give people advice on where they should and shouldn't apply. So then you can also put location negotiable after selection as well. So click all the ones, and if it has one of these ones, this one's like a little extra booster.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to click that for our demonstration purposes. Select the lowest grade you're willing to accept. Okay, if it has the range, say 5 to 11, what's the lowest one you're willing to go to? I'm going to click 7 because I want to get in the GS system. They have great benefits. They have great healthcare. They have the retirement system. I'm willing to take a 7. Yep, I'll say it. I would. Do any of your relatives work for the agency you're applying for? No. Okay. Are you currently serving or have served the last 5 years in a political appointment in the federal government? That's a no. Please list title of agency. That does not apply. Again, put NA because it has an asterisk next to it. You have to put something. Just put NA. And then, do you have any of the following? So The NACI is the non-sensitive or the public trust one. I believe this is the one I actually have. So I'm going to click that because I do have that. Okay, this public notice can be used for filling various supervisory levels. Select all supervisory. I don't want to be. So like you can pick that you don't want to be a supervisor. You can pick that you'd be willing to be a team lead, or that you'd be a full supervisor, which is over a department. Click all that you're willing to be. I don't want to be in charge of anyone. Okay. And again, all those little questions that I had just answered will be relevant when a job becomes available at any of those locations. Because if they are looking for a team leader, if you said you don't want to be a team leader, your application automatically gets thrown out. So if you are willing to do those types of roles, click all three of them. It's your best bet for getting a job. Okay. Okay. Choose which one. Okay. So this questionnaire is gonna give you points. Okay. It will also determine what pay grade you are actually qualified for HR purposes. So choose the one that best describes your experience. So do you possess a physical science, engineering, mathematics degree that has 24 credit hours of physical science or related engineering? Or I do not possess the basic requirements. So A would be most qualified to least qualified. I have none of the above. Okay. So choose the best answer that describes your education experience. I have completed 1 year of graduate level education or superior academic achievement, which means you hold a master's degree or more. I have a master's degree. Okay, so A again would be the highest rating. So I could keep going with this and kind of work you through. The one thing I need to say for this is be truthful. If it is ever proven that you lied on this documentation, you will not be allowed to reapply for that agency if they found that you lied while applying. Okay. There are people who will go through and say A, or E, depending on how they set it up, like either A is the most qualified or E is the most qualified, depending on the way it's worded. If you go through and just say you're most qualified on every single thing, and they prove that you are not being truthful and that your experiences don't actually justify that, then it's going to be a problem. Also, does your resume match? Because if you're clicking, let me scroll down just a little bit more. Oh, this one's super short. Sometimes they're like 20 questions long. Like this one, okay. This one was one of the ones that you needed certain amount of education was like the top reason. I did this with somebody else, so like I haven't looked at this one in a minute. But in other ones, it will say like, I have the ability to supervise and have knowledge in bear trapping and this trapping using that trap, and then you have to click yes. So it'll basically give you tiers of like, I have some experience with supervision, being supervised doing this work, or I can supervise others. Typically is like the progression you'll see on how independently you can do certain tasks. So if you over exaggerate your previous experience in those areas, your resume better match it, because they will disqualify you if your resume doesn't support that level of work. Okay. I know there are going to be people who work the system and they're going to just keep putting they're the most qualified, but I firmly believe it's better to be truthful.
Yes.
So, Stephen, I know that's probably, there's no way to work around the questionnaire, but you need to be truthful. I'm going to click out of this before I actually apply for the position.
Yeah.
I don't.
Stephen, did you have any specific questions about tips or tricks, like anything else that we haven't already covered? Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay. So we did the mock apply. I showed you how to apply to go through and click your stuff. And then I showed you kind of what the questionnaire will look like. From that, I'm going to show you some other resources, and then we're going to do a ton of examples. From the time we stop this presentation, we are going to just be asking for people to give us examples of their career path, and we're going to work them out, and we'll do that for the rest of the time and show you how to use Usajobs and these additional resources I'm going to go ahead and show you, okay? Because it is very, very important to know that there's other resources on how to improve your resume and increase your chances of matching, okay? So I am very, very sorry. I started from the beginning. That was my bad. Okay. Fast class. Fast class is where you're going to find position descriptions of jobs, okay? It is the biggest, largest position descriptions for the federal government that you will find. It is the most comprehensive. However, you do have to look around. Not all of the jobs are fully filled out, but you will find some that are so well filled out that give you so many KSAs, so much knowledge, and it even gives you tips on what they specifically looked for in an applicant, because these are all closed description. So these are all jobs that have already been hired for. So you can look and see specifically what they were looking for in that applicant when they were hiring for that position. You bet your butt that the people who are in the hiring positions are going to be using similar qualifications and similar, not questionnaires, what do they call it? They have a set thing.
Credentialing, no.
Scoring.
Scoring.
Scoring. We're going to go with scoring. They're going to have a similar scoring outlook, and you'll see there's a point system. Very, very helpful. And again, you can directly put some of this information from this description into your resume, so it can help you build it out a little bit more. Okay. Office of Human Capital. So this is another one. They have a little library. These next ones are a little smaller. Again, we will show you them. They don't have as many. It's not very searchable. It's like you see what you see and that's it kind of thing. So Science for Changing the World, USGS, and you'll find again, same position descriptions. And then you can click it and they all give you PDFs on these sites. Office of Human Resources and Management as well. Okay, so these are the four. You could probably find more of these out there. I spent hours upon hours searching these when I was originally getting information and resources for Federal Resume. The other ones, like I can tell you, I've looked at quite a few other ones. They're very hard to find. And if I don't have them, that means I didn't find them. I'm not saying it's not possible. Maybe I didn't try a certain agency because there's so many federal agencies. Maybe I missed one. I'm not trying to say that I didn't try my best, but these are the ones that I know for a fact work and that these agencies have them.
Right.
Okay.
And Stephen just asked another great question. In regards to emailing the contact on within the job description, would you recommend emailing the contact that the job provides for any reason other than questions such as saying you have applied, sending other specific documents, or would you really just want them to see that it was included in the application?
I would only email them if you have a direct question that is either related to the job posting or related to the application. So that way, if there is something that you maybe missed and need to re-put in, they can kind of go ahead and look at that. So that way they can either add it to it for you or something like that. Those are the only times I would ever really email that contact, is if you need to. Some of them are just general HR contacts. Other times the VA is very good about this. I will say that the VA and FEMA are very good about putting the actual hiring manager or the HR person over that hiring manager. So they'll know direct questions about that position. But those are the only times. Even then, I would still only send an email if you have a very pertinent question. They tend to not like to be contacted saying, hey, I just applied for this. Like how we send thank you letters or follow-up things. The federal government isn't like that.
Yeah, it's really different than the civilian world where that would be commonplace.
Yeah.
That you would send out and go, just letting you know I applied. I'm very interested in. You don't do that here.
Yeah, if you do, they'll be like, I don't know why you're sending this. It's not
But it's a
normal.
good question because it's very different than normal processes.
Yeah.
I hate saying normal, but non-federal processes.
Even this, I'm not even gonna say, they're all different. Each agency handles hiring differently. So I can't even say like from one agency to the next, they do things a bit differently. But still typically asking for like updates or things like that isn't a thing. One thing you can do though, and I will say this, after the job, if you don't get selected, you can ask them if there's anything you can do to improve your resume or be a better fit for the job. You can always ask them that. So you could save that, but typically you're going to want to submit that to the specific HR. So like my knowledge strongly comes from working with the Department of the Army. Say the position was located out at Fort Hood. I'm going to email the CPAC at Fort Hood. The CPAC is a Civilian Personnel Advisory Center. I would email them or call them because there's a contact number and ask that CPAC directly why, like if they could give me any pointers or anything like that. And then also if they didn't read your resume, I know it sounds terrible because they have applicant tracking system. Sometimes HR doesn't actually read your resume. You could see what the applicant tracking system missed because it's like, hey, I have that experience and it's clear, like stated in this paragraph, I have it, but you're saying I don't have it because that's the feedback they gave me is that you don't have any work related to this X thing. It's like, no, wait, I have a whole paragraph on that. How could it be missed? It relates back to verbiage. So if HR didn't take the time to read it, which is technically not allowed, HR is supposed to read every single application. I just don't want it getting out there, but it is supposed to be read. But if they don't, that's why verbiage is so much more important. So, yep. Okay.
Awesome.
Two last, sorry. I have two more little things and then we're going to go into our search. For the military folk, here we are. You guys are going to want to pull up your JST. This is where you're going to find the comprehensive list of your trainings. Very much so. It even gives you descriptions of courses. So again, hint, hint. If it's saying that you need to know something and it gives a description of one of the trainings you did and it has some of that information in there, you can go ahead and give a description of your training. Okay. So fun fact, but they do give descriptions. Then MilConnect. So your VMAT, so verification, military experience and training, is going to be under MilConnect. You guys will receive an email today following this. I'm going to attach a veterans document. It was on part 1 as well, but at the bottom of this document is these links with the how to pull these documents up. Okay, so that way it walks you through how to access your VMAT and how to access your JST. So the MilConnect is your military experience and it gives you descriptions of your jobs. So the other one gives you trainings, this one gives you your jobs. Helps you write your resume a little bit, okay? And then job scan. Okay. I don't encourage anybody to pay for this.
No.
I'm sorry if job scan ever watches this video. But they give you some free scans each month. And say you're applying for your dream job, go ahead, put in the education, put in the duties, put in the KSAs, and then put your resume in and it'll scan it and tell you what verbiage specifically you're missing, okay? Highly suggest you do this. If you do this for one job, like say you're applying to all chemistry jobs, and all the chemistry jobs have similar descriptions, you don't have to keep rescanning it. but it's good if you have started to work on it and you're like, hey, I need to know what verbs I need to put in here more. Like, what is it saying that I'm missing?
Right.
Okay, so that's the last one. So that's the last of our resources, and we're going to show you how to use these ones. Okay, so I'm going to stop share. I am going to go back to USA Jobs. Okay, and I'm going to reshare now that I'm back at USA Jobs. Okay. There we go. Okay. Does anybody, I need that a little bit though. Okay. Does anybody have a position or a job category or something they want me to look up? I would like you to have your mute off if you do this, just so I can ask questions periodically, so we know we're searching in the right spot.
Anyone interested?
I'll help you with your search. It's what I'm offering, and I'll help find which resources fit best for you. Do you have anything?
Stephen says he'll do it again.
Stephen will do it again. We can go back to Stephen. I want to give somebody else a chance. If nobody's willing, we'll go back to Stephen. Does our in-person person want something?
His mic doesn't work.
Oh,
So we can try Matthew. Okay,
Matthew, but we'll type it.
Yep.
Type it.
And so Matthew, what are some of the job titles you're looking for? Or categories? Foreign languages, dealing with Chinese and Spanish.
Okay.
Not translators though.
I'm going to put instructor. I'm going to go with this one and see what we can find.
I appreciate you being honest.
That's fine.
And if you see the preferences were still on there, so that's why it's important to sometimes not have them added.
I just do it for example purposes. If I was actually using my account to look, I would go through and take all of them off. Okay, look, this CIA has one.
Wow.
There we go. They also have foreign language teacher. There are, fun fact, I do know this, all of the military branches have to have instructors for foreign languages because they have to teach their linguists stuff. So some of these, like, look, there's Army Training and Doctrine Command is currently looking for a Russian instructor. Okay.
Makes sense.
Yep. Does make sense.
Makes sense.
Yep.
And he said specifically Chinese and Spanish.
Okay. I will see. So we have a lot of these. So we have Korean. Here
There's
we go.
one.
So you have a Chinese Mandarin instructor. Okay. Okay. Monterey, California is the hot spot for languages. So if you are looking to be an instructor, this is the area you're gonna be for the most part. And then they have Spanish down in San Antonio.
Makes sense.
And that's also US Army. And then you have this one, linguists for FBI, and some of the other agencies will also have linguists, but these ones may be more translation. So I am going to go ahead. Which one would you like to see, the Mandarin or the Spanish?
Do you have a preference, Matthew? Mandarin.
Okay. And actually, somebody in our audience went through this program. I know for a fact I worked with this person before, and they went through all of the Mandarin and was a linguist for Mandarin.
That's awesome.
So I'm not going to get too in depth into that one, but I know somebody who did it. Okay. So you guys will have to work. So it's open to public, veterans, and military spouses. All the duties are here. Okay.
And this again is where you're going to find that verbiage and those, make sure you're using the language from duties, requirements, education, all of it.
So requirements. So look, you have to submit a 300-word handwritten essay. So it can't be typed. They want you to handwrite it, and you're going to add this into your documents. So you need to read, write, and converse, but it will give you all the qualifications in this as well. And it's a translation essay, it says. So sorry, you will have to translate there. Okay. If we keep going,
There's the how you'll be evaluated. And if you notice, it's in a different section.
Yep. It is.
Interesting.
And that's why I said you really need to read it through. This is giving you a thing right here you need to click. It's the language application thing, I believe, if I remember correctly. It will score you. And
Does
then
that
so-
mean translate to English to Chinese and submit both, or just write essay in Chinese? How does it read?
says requires a smooth. The topic of the essay is how your background, education, and training prepared you. Looks like you just have to write it.
I think you write it and then you write it again. I mean, it's up to you and how your brain works. If you want to write it in Mandarin and then translate it to English, it looks like you're going to be submitting both.
Two, yeah. So that I think so that way they know you can match it and be able to go back and forth would be my guess.
Great question, though.
Yep. Okay. So it gives you more of all of this stuff, how you'll be evaluated. Again, if it has any of these, please click them. If it has something for you to click it. It might lead you to a document you might need, okay? This one has an application checklist, and then this one is very thorough with what it wants, okay? So if it gives you like, hey, this one wants hours worked per week and dates of employment, make sure you have that. If you use our template, that one will be in there though, for sure. So cover letter, appraisal, and then transcripts, licensees, all of that stuff. Again, they have a little click it. Okay, now we're going to use some of our other ones. Okay, so we're going to go to Fast Class because this is a database. We're going to search the PDs. I click yes. Okay, I need to go back to this though.
Yeah, the exact title.
Yep, sorry guys, I'm going to have to copy this one. Mandarin. Should have done that first, but it is what it is. Okay. So we are going to do that. And that's all we're going to do. And we're going to hit. Oh no. I have subtitles because somebody requested that we have the automated, but I
Is
can't.
it in front of?
It is in front of the submit.
I can fix that.
Thank you. Oh,
Did it work?
so no search found for that. I'm going to take, this is what I mean. So Fast Class sometimes has a little thing. I have to do it again.
Did it work?
No search found. I'm just going to do foreign language, even more so. I'm going to see if just hitting enter instead of search. Huh. Okay. Teacher is where we need to be at. Okay. So like I said, Fast Class can be a little funky to work. You have to find what you're kind of looking for. And it can give you different things. So these ones are actually for military bases. So it's teaching people on the bases the language of that nation. So we have a lot of bases in Germany, that kind of thing. I am going to go back. I'm going to type in Did I spell that? No. Okay. Nope. Mandarin. Nope. Nope. Oh,
And did you get it?
no. I accidentally clicked out of it.
Mandarin.
Madar.
Mandarin.
Still looks wrong.
Yeah, I think that's.
Got it.
Yay.
Okay. Nothing. So this is one of the ones that our extra positions may not help you. I'm going to still search the other ones we have just in case. So these ones are all accounting, accounting related, accounting, and attorney.
And essentially, these extra resources are to give you more insight on what to add to your resume or to your application. So if you don't find it on here, it doesn't mean you still need to apply and use the job description. You just may not have that extra help from these resources.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of the jobs, okay, so Matthew says most of the jobs you've been looking at deal with education. Will I need to take more classes before being eligible for the position since my major only deals with languages? Great question.
This would be a good question if it does have an HR contact. I'm going to go back to USA Jobs. If it has a contact, which the Army is known not to.
And also look under the qualifications. A lot of times they don't, especially for these. I know this happens in wildlife biologist positions too. Even if there's a teaching component to it, you don't have to have an education degree or education classes. You just have to have the knowledge of the subject. So my best advice would to be, again, yeah, if you have a contact, absolutely email them. But look at the requirements and the course requirements under the qualifications for each of these.
Yep. I think that's well said. So this is the contact. If you wanted to, you would just email this email. I don't know how quickly they will get back to you. And if all else fails, I'm also going to say this, still apply. Even if you're like, I don't know if I truly fit this, apply. They will weed you out if they don't think you are a good fit. But if it's worth it and it's something you're interested in, apply. Okay. Because this one there's only so many people who can apply for it. That's a fact. So, give it a shot if that's what you're interested in. Okay. I'm sorry that I could not find more on that one.
I hope that was helpful, Matthew, just so you can kind of see. The other thing to be aware of is we looked up foreign language, but there are so many other things that you can look up. And that's where it's just need to get in there and start searching and go into the depths. I like to call it going down the rabbit hole of USA Jobs. Yeah. That's really kind of how it goes, because every department is also going to have different titles.
And the other one, so the CAA has the foreign language instructor as well. I would always give them a shot too, if you have a second language. Another person, so most agencies, if you have some kind of language skill, any of the special agent jobs apply for, because they basically can reroute you to where you actually need to go if they think that your skill is what they need. And languages specifically are huge in that field. And you might not, like if you apply to CIA or FBI or any of those places with a foreign language like that, you may not be on translation. They have other positions where you can do it. Also, the State Department might be one for you to look at, because you could potentially work at an embassy, because they do require embassy personnel to be fluent in the language of that consulate. So you could potentially work in a consulate in possibly China or any other place that uses Mandarin or Spanish. So I actually would highly consider looking into the State Department as well. You can find recruiters too for those things if you have any trouble with that one. Foreign language is a tricky, no, it's not tricky. There's so many opportunities that may just not be out there.
And it may not necessarily say foreign language.
Yes, it might be under a different title.
Exactly.
But you should, if you need more help, let us know. And we can see if we can find some other contacts. But you're probably one of the other ones that I'd say just is in a niche. But not a bad one. It's actually really cool.
That's really awesome.
Okay.
Were there any other questions about any of these kind of moving forward that you haven't had clarification on? And this goes to everyone, just so we're making sure that we're keeping your answers, keeping your question. I can't say words right now. I'm gone.
Keeping your questions answered.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna, if you guys don't have one you want me to do.
I think Steven said, and we could do chemistry.
Chemistry. Yes, that is right. Okay. We're gonna go back to chemist. We're doing this. We're going to public. And we already saved it, so we're looking at this. So we would click this one, see what it's all about, kind of go through all of it. However, we've already done it with chemists. I'm going to bring you through the additional resources now. So this is the accounting and attorney one. Okay, here we go. This one's going to have it. Okay, look, student trainee in chemistry. So these are the internships we were talking about. If you are looking for internships in the federal system, there are two right here that are geared towards people in college, okay? I'm going to pull this up. I know Steven's a PhD student. He's well qualified for this one, but I'm going to pull it up to show you what they look like, and then I'm going to find his actual chemistry one. So look, it's going to give you this handy dandy description. Gives you all of the different things. That's the supervisor information. Gives you an introduction. It's the trainee pathway. Okay. It gives you all the major duties. And then the factors. This is, okay, the factors are my favorite spot. This is how they judge you. And you're going to notice there's a point system. So this is how important it is. Most of the points are taken 950 from knowledge only. Yay.
That's awesome.
Okay. So you guys want to bet your patooties that factor one needs to be somewhere in your resume, because this is what they're looking for. Okay. So if you have skills in calibrating and operating analytical instruments, if you've done that in a lab, you better have it in there. If you've done it in any of your projects, put it in there, okay?
And repeat yourself as many times as you have had those experiences.
Yep. And then same thing, so under here, supervisory controls, it's only 125 points. So they take this one into consideration less, but it's still relevant. Same thing, if anything in here, you should put it into your resume if you have it. Same thing with factor 3 and 4. And they have 5
and 6
and 7. I think they have 9.
That's awesome.
That's a lot. But that's 9 areas that you can bump up your information, and it gives you ideas about, wait, I've done this in lab. I've done this in a project. Hey, this course had to deal with that. That's where I can put this. So just so you're aware, it doesn't have to just be in your work experience. It definitely, especially because this one's a trainee one, they expect you to have most of the skills from college.
Exactly.
Okay. Moving these out of the way so I can backspace. Okay. We're going to keep going back up. Do they have a chemist, civil engineer? Again, student trainee, any civil engineerings, budget accounting, student trainee for biology. Anybody out there? And then all of the field fish, wildlife, biology, all of that good stuff is in this one. Student trainee for management. So anybody in the business college would be really good for this one. That might want to get that in their resume. I am surprised that this one doesn't have a chemistry for everybody. Okay. I'm going to go to the top. Sorry. So this one's under the Office of Human Capital now. We switched to a different site. So they have hydrologists, geologists, standard positions. They have IT. Okay. They have a lot of geologists, IT, government information specialist, grant management, procurement. So business ones, there's a lot of business type stuff in here. Okay. I'm going to go to Old Faithful, who will definitely have it. Fast class. This one will for sure pop up. I know it. There we go.
Oh, wow.
So you can even do it by grade. So if you're like, hey, I'm looking at a GS 12 or a GS 11, you can pick it based off of grade. All of these 3s and 4s are going to be your trainees. So anybody looking for internship, that's typically the pay range for somebody who's in the student trainee pathway program. Okay. I'm going to put that one out there. So I'm going to pick this 11. And here we go. So you're going to go down, you're going to take a minute. It's going to get down here and it's going to, oh, dang. Okay. This is what we call a not so good description. It only has 3 paragraphs. It doesn't have all of the factors in there. Okay. We're going to search again. Oh no. Which one did I pick? Oh, that was a trainee one for sure. Okay.
Yeah, do the 12.
Let's see. Here we go. And when you find a good one, save it in a Word document, okay? If it's something you're interested in, because trying to refine them is like trying to find that one good M&M out of the jar, okay? Or I should say, what are those? Like the Jolly Rancher or the Starburst jelly bean out of the Starburst jelly bean out of the jelly bean jar when all the rest of them are regular.
Favorite flavor.
Yeah. Again, look at all this stuff. It gives you all these descriptions and then it gives you more KSAs. You now have like 2 pages worth of stuff that you can look at and see how you can introduce some of this in there. You are not going to put all of everything that Fast Class has to offer in your resume. You will carry some of it over, but it just gives you some more. Like, look, it talks about, you know, I saw something about light, defending light. You know, like exposure to processed chemicals. You know, nope, that's environment. Obviously, as a chemist, you're going to be exposed to chemicals. So just letting you know that. It just depends. So very lengthy, but all of it could be very useful for you, okay? Like I said, Fast Class, look around because as you saw, one of them was like not so great. And then, oh, this one's even better. This one's really beefy.
I love it. And again, these are just used as supplements to add to your resume other than what's already in the job description. And honestly, when we're doing the federal process, more information is always better. So that's, again, why it's so wonderful to have these extra resources.
I'm going to go through one right now that is very relevant to our veterans because I want you to kind of get more information on how you can use your additional trainings into your stuff. So in Fast Class, we're going to go security. And for some reason, whenever I think of security, I think of Mad TV sketches, and I want to say security. I don't know why I had to say it out loud, but it is what it is. Okay. Okay. So we're just gonna pick one. We'll just try the top one. Okay. So anybody who's been in the military, sometimes the Air Force does not technically do additional duties quite like some of the other branches do. But if you've ever, especially during field trainings, worked, doing perimeters, watching the, oh my gosh, the huts, the fobs, not the fobs, where they keep all the IT. The tents where all like the important stuff is at. The talk, sorry, I don't know, I was thinking fob, talk. If you ever guarded the talk, because only certain people are allowed in the talk, so you had to check credentials, you had to do security. There's also another one. So if you have ammunition in the field, there's something that starts with an H. People usually have to guard those. If you don't, go put it back in the ammunition supply. Like, so if you're staying in the field for a few days, it's an acronym. I'm not going to say what I think it is because it's going to be wrong, but it starts with an H. If you ever guarded the ammo, anything like that, stuff that was extra out of there, say you did gate guard duty because they didn't have enough gate guards at one point. So you were checking ID and people coming through, making sure registrations were up to date. You can use security guard and get that on your resume. I use this one frequently with people who are doing park rangers, anybody applying for any federal law enforcement. This finding security guard is going to be huge for you to translate your military stuff into the way that the civilians want it worded. So please, security guard is a huge one. And you can find different types. So if you, depending on what you did, you're like, well, this doesn't really fit what I did. Well, go back here and see there is pages of it. So like this one was supply, radio, you can go ahead, desk control. So if you ever worked any of the equipment, like monitoring things, stuff like that. So any additional duty, security guard, love it for any security purposes. Border Patrol, FBI special agent, all of this stuff could be worked into your military experience because you've had an additional duty at one time or another. If you are a range instructor, we can find that one. So range, I'm just going to type range. Look at all of the range support specialists and operations. So if you were ever given that additional duty to help put on range days, I know in the Marines, there is a second classification. You can get a secondary MOS as like a range instructor. Here is where you can pull all those fancy descriptions at. Talk about scheduler, inspectors, officers, safety officers. You have a ton to pull from where you can pull these up and get different bits of stuff you did from all these different descriptions. I'm trying to think. Let's go medical. So we all took first aid if you were in the military at some point or another. So EMS, I actually don't know if this one's going to work. Nope. Emergency. We're just going to type in emergency.
I was gonna say
Nope.
that'll probably be
No.
better.
Okay. Emergency operations, vehicle services. There are ways we can find medical. What would be another?
Okay, that works.
First response, no. Fire, tighter. Nope. I need to separate them.
You put fighter.
Fighter. I didn't put fire at all. Nah, dang. Okay. We're gonna put fire.
Rescue.
We're just gonna put fire.
Yeah. there you go.
Firefighter, hazmat, chief fire. So somewhere in one of these is going to be some kind of first aid type description, that type of stuff. So go ahead, find where that first aid is at and put that on your resume if you're going into anything medical, because no matter what MOS you are, you had to have had that. I don't care if you want to argue with me otherwise, you had to have. Everybody needs to know how to save lives because accidents happen. And so there's that.
Perfect.
Okay. We have time for one more brave soul that would like me to look up their stuff in USA Jobs and see if we can find it in some of the other standard descriptions.
Or any other questions you have about the search process. We do have about 20 minutes left, a little bit less, but that's, or anything you haven't learned about that you are curious about. Again, that goes within questions.
Also, for any of our wildlife peeps, I'm going to put it out there that you need to put your land navigation. If any of the jobs have outdoor components, like you're going to be out in the land doing things in the wilderness, for any job, even for USACE or things like that, please pull out your land nav using night vision goggles, knowing how to work terrain, knowing how to camp, like, because you guys know how to make stuff out of rain ponchos and woobies and all of those things. Like, you need your survival skills that you learned in basic in there, and you can find that on your JST. So you can write that as like a training, but also put it in your position, because a lot of those outdoor wildlife ones, even some of the Border Patrol security ones, they want to know that if you accidentally get stuck somewhere, you have survival skills if it is an outdoor based job. Right. It is helpful, even though it's like probably not a top priority, but when they read it, they're going to be like, oh yeah, this is good for them to have. So just, that's another FYI.
And I think if there are no other questions, we do like to make sure you guys know how to make an appointment with us. So could you bring up Handshake? We did actually just add a new appointment type just for federal jobs. So you can go quickly into Handshake and you're able to set up an appointment with one of us, either virtually or in person, by clicking the Career Center tab at the top, going to appointments, clicking schedule a new appointment. And it says there are no new available appointments because it's my info and I'm not a student. So there you'll get to choose Morgantown as your campus, and then you'll get to choose between the different appointment types, and that's where you can choose federal. So we know that that's what we're going to be doing, and you'll be given a whole hour, and then you can see our open schedule so that you can 100% find a time that works for you and for us. So it's the easiest way. You can always call the office if you would like, or email us, but Handshake's just as easy.
Okay, I'm also going to let you show them STAR, so I'm going to stop share.
Let me bring that up. For those of you that are wanting to figure out, how do I get my transcripts? Make sure I'm logged in. Perfect. What was there's a new question.
I'm looking it up while you do that.
Perfect. So when you're in STAR, you go to Student Services and Housing. anything you need is going to be in student records. Now, the registrar does a lot of things, but holding on to student records so we have accounts that you were actually here is one of their main functions. So you can go to academic transcript, go to all levels. I mean, I'm going to show you mine. I don't want you guys to see mine. But you can actually download your transcript that way, download it as a PDF, and then submit that to the federal government if you don't need an official transcript. But you can order an official transcript here. And they will go through the process with you. You do have to pay for it. I believe your first one is free after you graduate, but after that, I don't remember. Do you know how much they are now? It's been so long since I've done it. It just depends, but they're usually under $15 per official transcript. So it's just something for you guys to be aware of.
And in my opinion, is a little expensive to do it. So make sure you wait till you're fully graduated, order it once, scan it up, and then save that other copy for anything else you may need. Don't get rid of it. Hold on to it. Okay. So the question we had in the chat, that is confusing. I'm going to say that right now because it says that grant will cover basic living, but then later says it must be procured and paid out of pocket. It must mean that if you don't get the grant, that you'll be expected to pay for it out of pocket, but the grant might be available. This would be an amazing one to reach out to whoever put the posting up and then ask for more explanations. And then on top of that, they should be able to give you more information on how to apply for that grant. Because that's what it kind of sounds like, is that you're expected to go even if you don't get the grant. So to be careful of living expenses if you don't get the grant.
Right. I don't know. That's probably the best way to answer it.
Yeah, definitely reach out to them.
And if you guys ever have questions about anything on Handshake, we do have access to more information from the administrative level than you do. So if you ever do have those kind of questions, we can usually find the answers or at least get you a contact for someone that does. I think, is there anything else that we want to talk about? Any other questions? We will be sending links, all of the links that we've shared today, as well as the recording of this session in an email probably tomorrow. And again, you can always make an appointment with us if you would like more individual help. Yvonne, you did an amazing job as always. But we thank you guys for coming to today's session. And yeah, just let us know if you need help. That's why we're here.